Change 365 centimetres into metres. So 100 centimetres is equal to 1 metre, but we want to work out what 365 centimetres is. So to get from 100 centimetres to 365 centimetres, we need to multiply 100 by 3.65. So what we're going to do is we're going to also multiply this 1 metre by 3.65, which will give us 3.65 metres. Change 2.7 kilograms into grams. So 1 kilogram equals 1,000 grams. But we want to work out what 2.7 kilograms is equal to. Now to get from 1 to 2.7, we multiply by 2.7. So we're going to do the same and multiply 1,000 by 2.7, which gives us 2,700 grams. Work out 2 plus 7 times by 10. So we can see that this question is worth 1 mark, and that 1 mark comes from our answer. So the most important thing to remember for this question is our BODMAS rules. So we always do our multiplication before we do our addition. So the first thing we'll do is we'll multiply 7 by 10, which will give us 2 plus 70. And 2 plus 70 equals 72. Solve y over 4 equals 10.5. So in order to solve this equation, we want to get this y on its own on one side. So to get it on its own, we need to multiply both sides by 4. So y divided by 4 times by 4 equals y. And 10.5 times by 4. The best way to do this is to split this 10.5 into a 10 and then a 0.5. So 10 times by 4 equals 40, and then 0.5 times by 4 equals 2. 40 plus 2 equals 42. So we can then work out that y equals 42. Here are 4 numbers, -9, -2, 2 and 9. Write one of these numbers in each box to make a correct calculation. So what we can see from this question is we have 4 numbers and we need to add 2 of them together to make -7. So the best way to do this question is to use a little bit of trial and error. So if we take this 9 at the end and try adding it to each of the other 3 numbers, we're not going to be able to get -7, so we can cross this one out. We're now left with 3 numbers which we can try adding together in different combinations and see if we can get -7. So if we try adding -9 and -2, this will give us -11. This is not equal to -7, so we can cross this one out. We'll next try -2 add 2, which gives us 0. This is also not -7, so we can cross this combination out. The only 2 remaining numbers are -9 add 2, which gives us -7. Here are the first 4 terms of a number sequence, 2, 5, 11 and 23. The rule to continue this sequence is multiply the previous term by 2 and then add 1. Work out the 5th term of this sequence. So the first thing we'll do for this question is we'll just number these terms up here. So we've got term 1, term 2, term 3 and then term 4. Now what we can see is the rule to continue this sequence is to multiply the previous term by 2 and then add 1. Now we want to work out what the 5th term is, so we want to look at this 4th term up here, which is the 23. So what we'll do is we'll do 23 multiplied by 2, which gives us 46. And then we'll do 46 add 1, which will give us 47. Here are 5 straight rods. All measurements are in centimetres. The total length of the 5 rods is L centimetres. Find a formula for L in terms of A. Write your formula as simply as possible. So what we can see from this question is that it is worth 3 marks. Now the first 2 marks will come from your workings, and then the third mark will come from the answer. So to find the total length of these 5 rods, we need to add together the individual lengths of each of the 5 rods. So what we'll write down is L equals A minus 1 plus A plus A plus A plus A plus 4. Now what we need to do is we need to simplify down this formula. So we're going to collect all of the algebraic terms and then collect all of the numeric terms. So there's 5 A's in this equation. So L equals 5A, and then minus 1 plus 4 gives us plus 3. So the length of these 5 rods is 5A plus 3. Write down the coordinates of point A. So when using coordinates, we'll always put the x value first and then the y value second. Now in this question, the first thing we'll look at is the x-axis. And in order to find the coordinates of point A, we want to count along from the origin, which is this point here, 0, 0, until we reach the point A. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that is the x part of this coordinate. To find the y value, we need to do the same but for the y-axis, which is this one here. So we'll do the same, we'll count down from the origin and we get minus 1, minus 2. And that gives us the second part of our coordinate. Plot the points with coordinates 2, 9. Label this point B. So as with part A of this question, we always put the x value before the y value. So because this coordinate is 2, 9, it means we'll go 2 along the x-axis and then 9 up the y-axis. So we'll count 2 along, which will give us our x value here, and then 9 up, giving us our y value there, meaning that point B is there. Does point B lie on the straight line with equation y equals 4x plus 1? You must show how you get your answer. So point B is the coordinate 2, 9, which means the x value is 2 and the y value is 9. Now in order to show whether point B lies on this straight line, we need to sub in one of these values here. Now the easiest value to use would be the x value, as it saves you from rearranging this equation, but either way would work. So we'll write y equals 4 multiplied by 2, because we're replacing this x by 2, plus 1, which, if we remember our BODMAS rules, we always do our multiplication first and then our addition. So this will give us y equals 8 plus 1, which gives us y equals 9. Now because this equation shows us that y equals 9, and the y coordinate of this point is also 9, we now know that point B does lie on this straight line. Now we get our mark from subbing in this value here. However, it's always good to write a summary statement, just to conclude our answer. So all we need to write is a summary statement saying, yes, point B does lie on the line with equation y equals 4x plus 1. On the grid, draw the line with equation x equals minus 2. So if we take a look at the grid, this is the x-axis here. Now if we find the point minus 2, we want to draw a line where all of the x values will be minus 2, which will be this line here. So make sure you draw this line with a ruler, and that's your line x equals minus 2. The length of a rectangle is twice as long as the width of the rectangle. The area of the rectangle is 32 centimetres squared. Draw the rectangle on the centimetre grid. So the first thing we need to know for this question is that the area of a rectangle is equal to the length multiplied by the width. Now what we can see is that the area of this rectangle is 32 centimetres squared. So what we need is two numbers which will multiply together to make 32 centimetres squared. So we can write down all the numbers which will multiply to make 32. So we have 1 and 32, 2 and 16, and then 4 and 8. Now one of these lengths must be twice as long as the other length. So the only numbers which work for this is 4 and 8. So what we have is that 4 multiplied by 8 equals 32. Now because this is a centimetre grid, it means that one of these lengths is equal to 1 centimetre, and then 1 square is equal to 1 centimetre squared. So what we'll draw is a rectangle which goes 8 squares along and then 4 squares down. Now if we count up all these individual squares, we'll count 32 squares, which means the area is equal to 32 centimetres squared. Jackie wants to work out 3,480 divided by 5. She knows that 3,480 divided by 10 equals 348. Jackie writes 3,480 divided by 5 equals 174, because 10 divided by 5 equals 2, and 348 divided by 2 equals 174. What mistake did Jackie make in her method? So if we look at Jackie's method, her first step is 3,480 divided by 10 equals 348. Now when we're dividing something by 10, we move the decimal point 1 to the left, which then removes the 0. So we know that 3,480 divided by 10 does equal 348. So if we move on to the second step, Jackie writes 3,480 divided by 5 equals 174, because 10 divided by 5 equals 2, and 348 divided by 2 equals 174. Now if we think about this in more of a practical scenario, if we have 3,480 things and we're dividing it by 10 people, which gives us 348, if we then halve the number of people we're dividing it between, then the amount of things they will get will double. So in order to get the mark for this question, we need to write the mistake that Jackie made in her method. So we need to write something along the lines of Jackie should have multiplied 348 by 2 rather than divided. Jake and Sarah each played a computer game 6 times. Their scores for each game are shown below. Who had the most consistent scores, Jake or Sarah? You must give a reason for your answer. So in order to find out who had the most consistent scores, we need to use the range of these two sets of data. Now in order to find the range, we minus the smallest number from the largest number. So if we start off with Jake, the lowest number is 8, and then the largest number is 12. And we'll do the same for Sarah. So the lowest number is 2, and the largest number is 14. So in order to find the range for Jake, we'll do 12 minus 8, which gives us a range of 4. And 14 minus 2 gives Sarah a range of 12. So because Jake has a smaller range, this means he had the most consistent scores. So our mark comes from giving a reason for our answer. So Jake had the most consistent score because he had the smallest range. Jake played a different game 20 times. The stem and leaf diagram shows information about his scores. Jake said his modal score was 6 points because 6 occurred most often in the diagram. Is Jake correct? You must explain your answer. So if we take a look at this stem and leaf diagram, this part here on the left is the stem, and then this part here is the leaf. Now Jake is correct when he says that the number 6 occurs the most in the diagram. However, because the number 6 is only occurring in this third row down, which has a stem of 2, this means that the modal number is 26. So no, Jake is not correct, because he has not used the stem of this diagram. This means that the modal score is 26 rather than 6. There are 30 children in a nursery school. At least one adult is needed for every 8 children in the nursery. Work out the least number of adults needed in the nursery. So in order to work out the number of adults needed, we want to divide 30 by the number of children per adult, which is 8. So 30 divided by 8 is 3.75. However, you can't have 0.75 of an adult, so we need to round this 3.75 up to 4, and that means 4 adults are needed per 30 children. 2 more children join the nursery. Does this mean that more adults are needed in the nursery? You must give a reason for your answer. So there were 30 children in the nursery originally, and if we add 2 more, that means we'll have 32 children. Now for every 8 children, we want at least 1 adult. So we want to work out how many adults will be needed for 32 children. So 32 divided by 8 gives us 4. The answer to part A was also 4, which means that no more adults are needed in this nursery. So in order to get the mark for this question, we need to give a reason why. So we'll write, no more adults will be needed because 32 divided by 8 is also 4. Emma has 45 rabbits. 30 of the rabbits are male. 8 of the female rabbits have short hair. 12 of the rabbits with long hair are male. Use the information to complete the two-way table. So what we need to do for this question is we need to use the information in the question to start off this table, and then use our knowledge to finish it off. So if we look at the first piece of information in the question, it says that Emma has 45 rabbits. So if we look at the total row, which is this one here, and then the total column, this box here represents the total number of rabbits. So we'll write 45 here. The second piece of information is that 30 of the rabbits are male. So we want to look at the male column and then the total row, which is this one here, which represents the total amount of male rabbits, which is 30. The third piece of information is that 8 of the female rabbits have short hair. So we'll look at the short hair row and then the female column, which is this one here, and we can write 8 in this box. The final piece of information given in the question is that 12 of the rabbits with long hair are male. So again, we'll look at the long hair row and the male column, and we can write 12 in here. So now we can start filling in the table from the information. So if we first look at this total row here, we've got that the total number of rabbits are 45 and the total number of male rabbits is 30. Now 45 minus 30 gives us 15, and because we can only have male or female rabbits, we can work out that there are 15 female rabbits. Next, if we look at this male column here, we can see that the total number of male rabbits are 30 and the number of male rabbits with long hair are 12. So 30 minus 12 gives us 18, which is the amount of short hair male rabbits. Now we've got this short hair row here, which has a total column missing. So there are 18 male short hair rabbits and 8 short hair female rabbits. So if we add these together, we can work out the total number of short haired rabbits, which will give us 26. Next, we can look at this female column here. So there's a total of 15 females, and 8 of these females have short hair. So from this, if we do 15 minus 8, we can work out that 7 of the females have long hair, and this allows us to fill in our final box, which is the total number of rabbits with long hair. So if we add together that there's 12 male rabbits with long hair and 7 female rabbits with long hair, we can work out that there's 19 long-haired rabbits in total. One of Emma's rabbits is chosen at random. Write down the probability that this rabbit is a female with short hair. So first we need to work out how many female rabbits have short hair. So if we take a look at this two-way table, we'll look at the short hair row and the female column, and this shows us that 8 of the females have short hair. The next piece of information we need to work out this question is the total number of rabbits, which is 45. So we want to work out the probability that this rabbit chosen is a female with short hair. So what we need to do is we need to do 8 over 45, and that gives us our answer. The total surface area of a cube is 294 centimetres squared. Work out the volume of the cube. So the first thing we can do for this question is we can highlight the key pieces of information. So the surface area of a cube is 294 centimetres squared, and we want to work out what the volume of the cube is. So a cube is a 3D shape which has equal lengths for every side. Now the formula for the surface area of a cube is 6 times by x squared, where x is the length of a side. So we want to work out what one of these individual sides is equal to. So we can write that 6x squared equals 294, as 294 is equal to the surface area of this cube. So next we want to rearrange this equation to make x the subject. So the first thing we can do is we can divide both sides by 6. So x squared equals... Now to work out what 294 divided by 6 is equal to, the best thing to do is use the bus stop method. So if we write 294 here and 6, then the first thing we want to do is work out how many 6's will go into this 2. Now you can't fit any 6's into this 2, so we'll write a 0 here, and we'll carry over the 2 over to this next number here. So we've got 29. So 4 6's will go into 29, and we'll have a remainder of 5. So how many 6's will go into 54? This will give us 9 6's. So we can work out that 294 divided by 6 is equal to 49, and therefore x squared equals 49. So next, if we square root both sides, then we'll get x equals the square root of 49, which gives us x equals 7. So this means that one side of the cube is equal to 7 centimetres. So the final part of this question to get the final mark is to work out the volume of the cube. So in order to work out the volume of the cube, we do length multiplied by width multiplied by height. Now because all of the side lengths are equal, this means that volume is equal to 7 times by 7 times by 7, which again we can simplify down to 49 times by 7, and to work out 49 by 7 we can use the grid method. So 49 multiplied by 7. So first we'll work out 7 times by 40, which gives us 280, and then 7 times by 9, which gives us 63, and then we'll add 280 to 63. So 0 add 3 gives us 3. 8 add 6 gives us 14, we'll carry the 1 over. 2 add 1 gives us 343, and that means the volume is equal to 343 centimetres cubed. Here are two fractions, 7 over 5, 5 over 7. Work out which of the fractions is closer to 1. You must show all your workings. So in order to compare these fractions, we want to make the denominator, which are these bottom numbers here, the same. So we want to find a common multiple of 5 and 7. So to do this, we can multiply them together. And 5 times 7 is 35. So if we start off with 7 over 5, in order to get a denominator of 35, we want to multiply both the top and the bottom number by 7. So 7 over 5 is equal to 49 over 35. And we can do the same for 5 over 7. So in order to do that, we need to multiply both the top and the bottom by 5. So 5 over 7 is equal to 25 over 35. So the next thing we want to do is we want to work out which one is closer to 1. So 2 out of the 3 marks can come from just writing these two fractions here. In order to get the third mark, we need to work out which one's closer to 1. So if we start off with 49 over 35, we can convert this into a mixed number, and this gives us 1 and 14 over 35. And what we can see from this is that 49 over 35 is 14 over 35 away from 1. Now in order to work out how far away 5 over 7 is from 1, what we can do is we can do 1 minus 25 over 35. And if it's easier for you to write it out this way, you can do 35 over 35 minus 25 over 35. And this gives us 10 over 35. And that means that 5 over 7 is 10 over 35 away from 1. So 10 over 35 is less than 14 over 35. So this means that 5 over 7 is closer to 1. There are only red buttons, yellow buttons and orange buttons in a jar. The number of red buttons, the number of yellow buttons and the number of orange buttons are in the ratio of 7 to 4 to 9. Work out what percentage of the buttons in the jar are orange. So the first thing we can do for this question is just write out this ratio more clearly. So the ratio is 7 to 4 to 9, and then it's red to yellow to orange. Now because we're working out what percentage of the buttons are orange, we can make each of these numbers the number of buttons in the jar. So if we work out the total number of buttons in the jar, we can do 7 plus 4 plus 9, which gives us 20. Now if we take a look at our ratio again, we can see that there's 9 orange buttons. So to work out the percentage, we need to do 9 divided by 20 times by 100, which gives us 900 over 20, which is equal to 90 over 2, and therefore 45%. Berenica wants to buy 35 t-shirts. Each t-shirt costs £5.80. Berenica does the calculation 40 times by 6 equals 240 to estimate the cost of 35 t-shirts. Explain how Berenica's calculation shows the actual cost will be less than £240. So if we look at the calculation that Berenica has used, as you can see they've used 40 as an estimate for the 35 t-shirts, and they've used 6 as an estimate for the t-shirt costing £5.80. So as you can see, they've rounded both values up. So how does Veronica's calculation show the actual cost will be less than 240? Because both values have been overestimated. There is a special offer. T-shirts £5.80 each. Buy 30 or more t-shirts, get 10% off the total cost. Work out the actual cost of buying 35 t-shirts using the special offer. So what we can see from the special offer is that if you buy 30 or more t-shirts, you'll get 10% off the total cost. Now we want to work out the cost of buying 35 t-shirts. So what we can do is we can work out what 35 multiplied by £5.80 is, and then take 10% off the total cost. So the first thing we need to do is multiply together 35 and £5.80. We can do this using the grid method. So 5 times 30 is 150. 5 times 5 is 25. 30 times by 0.8 is 24. And then 0.8 times by 5 is 4. Now we want to add these 4 values together. So we have 150, 25, 24, and then 4. So if we start off with this right hand column, 5 add 4 is 13. We'll carry over the 1. 5 add 2 add 1 is 10. So again we'll carry over the 1. 1 add 2 is 203. So that means the cost of buying 35 t-shirts without the 10% off is £203. Now we want to work out what 10% of 203 is. So we know that 203 is 100%. So that means if we divide both sides by 10, we can work out that £20 and 30 pence is 10%. So the final thing we need to do for this question is do 203 minus £20.30. So 203 minus £20 and 30 pence. So if we start on this right hand side, 0 minus 0 is 0. 0 minus 3 will give us minus 3, so we need to carry over a 1 from this side. So 10 minus 3 is 7. 2 minus 0 is 2. 0 minus 2, again we'll need to carry a 1 over from this side. So 10 minus 2 is 8, and then 1 minus 0 is £182.70. So this means that the total cost of buying 35 t-shirts using the special offer is £182.70. There are 3 cards in box A and 3 cards in box B. There is a number on each card. Ryan takes at random a card from box A and a card from box B. He adds together the numbers on the 2 cards to get a total score. Work out the probability that the total score is an odd number. So what we can do to display the possible outcomes for these 2 boxes is we can draw a table. So to display these, we need 4 columns and then 4 rows. So we can make the top box A and the left hand side box B. What we need to do is fill in the numbers from the cards into this box here. So possible outcomes for box A is 3, 4 and 5, and then for box B it's 2, 3 and 9. So when Ryan takes 2 cards, he adds them together to get a total score. So to work out the outcomes in this table, we want to add together these 2 numbers. So 2 add 3 is 5, 2 add 4 is 6, 2 add 5 is 7, and so on. So 3 add 3 is 6. And then finally 3 add 9 is 12 and 14. Now we want to work out the probability that the total score is an odd number. So what we can do with this table is we can highlight all the odd numbers. So we have 5, 7, 7 and 13. Now the total number of odd numbers is 4. So to work out the probability, we want to work out how many numbers this is out of. So if we again count from this table, there are 9 possible outcomes. And that gives us our probability. Harry, Regan and Keelan share £450 in the ratio 2 to 5 to 3. How much money does Keelan get? So the first thing we can do for this question is write out this ratio more clearly. So the ratio is 2 to 5 to 3, and then it's Harry to Regan to Keelan. So in order to work out this ratio, we want to add together this 2, 5 and 3. So 2 plus 5 plus 3 is equal to 10. Now because they are sharing £450, we want to divide £450 by this 10 here. So 450 divided by 10 is equal to 45. Now this gives you one of your 2 marking points, and in order to get the final mark, we need to multiply this 45 by 3, which is the ratio of money that Keelan will get. Now 45 times by 3 is 135. So this means Keelan will get £135. Here is a list of ingredients for making 16 flapjacks. Jenny wants to make 24 flapjacks. Work out how much of each of the ingredients she needs. So the first thing we can do for this question is work out what we need to multiply 16 by to get 24. So 16 times by 1.5 gives us 24, and that's where our first marking point comes from. So because we need to multiply the number of flapjacks by 1.5, we can work out that we need to multiply each of these values by 1.5 as well. So we can start off with the butter. 120 times by 1.5 gives us 180 grams. And next the brown sugar. 140 times by 1.5 is 210 grams. 250 grams of oats times by 1.5 gives us 375 grams. And finally 2 tablespoons of syrup times by 1.5 is 3. So now all we need to do to finish off this question is fill in these values into the answer box. Amy and Josh use a calculator to work out 595 divided by 4.08 squared plus 5.3. Amy's answer is 27.1115. Josh's answer is 271.115. One of these answers is correct. Use approximations to find out which answer is correct. So when using approximations, we'll always round the values to one significant figure. So what we need to do to this calculation up here is round each of the numbers to one significant figure. So we'll start off with the 595, and we can round this up to 600. Next, the 4.08, we can round this down to 4. And then finally the 5.3, we also round this down to 5. So next we need to simplify this calculation down. So 600 divided by, and then 4 squared is 16 plus 5, which gives us 600 divided by 21. Now 600 divided by 21 would also be quite difficult to do without a calculator. So what we can do is we can round this 21 down to 20. So this gives us 600 divided by 20, which is 60 divided by 2, giving us an approximate value of 30. So the final thing we need to do for this question to get the full 3 marks is take a look back at Amy and Josh's answers. Now we got an approximate value of 30, however Josh's answer was 271.115. Now this is quite far away from 30, so it's unlikely to be Josh's answer. Amy's answer, however, is 27.1115. Now this is only roughly 3 away from 30, so this suggests that Amy's answer is the correct answer. So in order to get the final mark, we need to write a summary statement. So we can write something along the lines of Amy's answer is correct because it is closest to the approximate value. Work out 0.06 times 0.0003 divided by 0.01. Give your answer in standard form. So when using standard form, the general rule is that we have x multiplied by 10 to the power of y, where x is a number which is less than 10. So the first thing we can do for this question is we can convert these numbers into standard form. So 0.06 is equal to 6 times 10 to the negative 2. 0.0003 is equal to 3 times 10 to the negative 4. And 0.01 is equal to 1 times 10 to the negative 2. So what we need to do is we need to substitute these values into the original calculation. So this will give us 6 times 10 to the negative 2 times by 3 times 10 to the negative 4 divided by 1 times 10 to the negative 2. So what we can do now is we can simplify the numerator of this fraction. We can do this by multiplying the 6 and 3 together, and then multiplying this 10 to the negative 2 by the 10 to the negative 4. So 6 times by 3 is 18, and then 10 to the negative 2 times by 10 to the negative 4 is 10 to the negative 6. Because when we're multiplying numbers with a power, we add the powers together. And then this is all divided by 1 times 10 to the negative 2. Now what we can see is the numerator of this fraction is no longer in standard form because 18 is above 10. So 18 times by 10 to the minus 6 is equal to 1.8 times 10 to the negative 5. And this is again all divided by 1 times 10 to the minus 2. So the final thing we need to do for this question is to simplify down this fraction. So we can do this in the same way that we did it before. So we can divide 1.8 by 1 and then 10 to the negative 5 by 10 to the negative 2. So 1.8 divided by 1 gives us 1.8. And then 10 to the minus 5 divided by 10 to the minus 2 gives us 10 to the minus 3. Because when we're dividing with numbers with a power, we minus them. And minus 5 minus negative 2 gives us minus 3. Now as we can see, 1.8 is less than 10, which means this answer is already in standard form. Work out 2 over 5 plus 1 over 4. So when we're adding fractions, we need the denominator, which is this bottom number here, to be the same. So we need to find a common multiple of 5 and 4. Now the easiest way to do this is to do 5 times by 4, which gives us 20. So now we need to change these fractions so that they both have a denominator of 20. So we'll start off with 2 over 5. Now to get a denominator of 20, we'll need to multiply both of these numbers by 4. So 2 times by 4 gives us 8, and then 5 times by 4 gives us 20. Next we'll move on to 1 over 4. So in order to get a denominator of 20, we need to multiply both these numbers by 5. So 1 over 4 is equal to 5 divided by 20. Now this is where your first mark comes from. In order to get the second mark, we need to add these two fractions together. So 8 over 20, add 5 over 20 is equal to 13 over 20, because we keep this denominator the same and we add together the numerators. Write down the value of 2 to the power of negative 3. So when we're dealing with negative powers, like we are in this question, we flip the fraction. So this means that 2 to the power of negative 3 is equal to 1 divided by 2 to the power of 3. Now 2 cubed is equal to 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2, which is 8. So this means that 2 to the power of negative 3 is equal to 1 divided by 8. Write 36 as a product of its prime factors. So as you can see, this question is worth 2 marks. So your first mark comes from using a suitable method to find the prime factors, and then your second mark comes from getting the correct answer. So one method you could use to find the prime factors is a factor tree. So we start off with the number 36 at the top, and then we want to find two numbers which will multiply together to make 36. We can divide 36 by 2, so we can do 2 and then 18. Now 2 is a prime number because we can only divide it by itself and 1. So we can circle this to make it clear that we can't divide this anymore. Now again we want to find two numbers which will multiply together to make 18. So we can again divide 18 by 2, and 2 is a prime number, so we can circle this. And 2 multiplied by 9 gives us 18. Now we can still divide 9 further, and we can divide 9 into 3 and 3. And 3 is another prime number, so we can circle these. So this tells us that our 4 prime numbers, which make up 36, is 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 3. And this is where your final mark comes from, by writing the correct answer. Kyria is 7 years older than Jay. Martha is twice as old as Kyria. The sum of their 3 ages is 77. Find the ratio of Jay's age to Kyria's age to Martha's age. So we can solve this question algebraically. And to do this, we can let x be equal to Jay's age. So now what we can do is we can display each of these 3 people's ages in terms of x. So if we start off with Jay, Jay's age is x. Now if we take a look back at this question, Kyria is 7 years older than Jay. So if Jay is x years old, Kyria will be x plus 7 years old. Now Martha is twice as old as Kyria. So that means Martha will be 2 times by x plus 7 years old. And if we multiply out these brackets, we get 2x plus 14 years old. This is where your first mark will come from. Next, we can see from the question that the sum of their three ages is 77. Now their three ages are x, x plus 7 and 2x plus 14. So we can write out that x plus 7 plus 2x plus 14 equals 77. And we can again simplify this down. So first start off with the algebraic terms. So we have x plus 2x, which gives us 4x. And then the numeric terms. So we have 7 and then we have 14. So this gives us 21 equal to 77. So this is where your second mark comes from. However, in order to work out what x is, we need to rearrange this equation here. So what we can do is we can minus 21 from both sides. So we'll get 4x is equal to 56. Now in order to get x on its own on one side, we can divide both sides by 4. This gives us x equals 14. So working out what x is equal to is where your third mark comes from, and the thing we need to do for the final mark is work out the ratio. So we want to work out the ratio of Jay's age to Kira's age to Martha's age. Now what we worked out at the start of this question is that Jay's age is equal to x, Kira's age is equal to x plus 7, and then Martha's age is equal to 2x plus 14. So the final thing we need to do for this question is substitute in the value we found for x, which is 14, into this ratio here. So we get 14 to 14 plus 7 to 2 multiplied by 14 plus 14. Now if we simplify this down, we get 14 to 21, and then 2 multiplied by 14 is 28 plus 14, giving us 42. ABCD is a parallelogram. EDC is a straight line. F is the point on AD so that BFE is a straight line. Angle EFD is 35 degrees. Angle DCB is 75 degrees. Show that angle ABF is 70 degrees. Give a reason for each stage of your working. So as we can see from this question, we've been given a diagram. So we can start this question off by annotating this diagram. But it's really important to give a reason for each stage of your working. So the first thing we can start off with is this parallelogram ABCD, which is this one here. Now opposite angles in a parallelogram are equal. So this means that angle BAD, which is this angle here, is also 75 degrees. So we can write this down here. So we can write angle BAD is 75 degrees because opposite angles in a parallelogram are equal. Now if we take a look back at this diagram, we can also see that this angle here, AFB, will also be 35 because vertically opposite angles are equal. So we can also fill this in. So again, we can write this in the space below so it's clear where we've got our answer from. So we can write that angle AFD is 35 degrees because vertically opposite angles are equal. So now in our diagram we have enough information to complete this question. So the question is to show that angle ABF is 70 degrees. Now as we can see, we have a triangle here, which is triangle ABF. And we have two angles in this triangle. Now all angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. So we can work out what this angle here, ABF, will be equal to. So we want to work out 75 plus 35, which gives us 110. And then we want to minus this from 180. So 180 minus 110 is 70 degrees. So this therefore proves that angle ABF is 70 degrees. So the final thing to complete this question is to just write a summary statement. So we can write, therefore angle ABF is 70 degrees. And this is enough to get you your full marks because you've shown all your workings within the diagram and in this answer space here. The diagram shows a logo made from 3 circles. Each circle has a centre O. Daisy says that exactly 1/3 of the logo is shaded. Is Daisy correct? You must show all your working. So we've been given a diagram for this question, and we need to work out what the area of this shaded area here is. So we can start off by just labelling these circles A, B and C. Now the area of a circle can be worked out by pi r squared, where r is the radius. So if we start off by working out the area of each of these 3 circles, so we can start off with circle A. So the radius of this circle is 4 centimetres, as the distance from the centre to one edge of the circle is 4 centimetres. So we can substitute this into the formula. So the area is equal to pi times by 4 squared. And 4 squared is 16, so this gives us an area of 16 pi. Next we can take a look at circle B. So again we need to work out what the radius is. So we want to find the distance from the centre of the circle to one edge, which is 4 plus 3, which gives us 7. So the area of circle B is pi multiplied by 7 squared, which gives us 49 pi. Now finally the largest circle. The radius will be 4 plus 3 plus 3, which gives us 10. So the area for circle C is pi multiplied by 10 squared, which gives us 100 pi. So in order to work out this question, we need to divide the area of this shaded area here by the area of the total circle, so circle C. So in order to work out the area of this shaded area, we need to minus the area of the smaller circle from the area of the medium-sized circle. So the area of B minus A. So the shaded area is equal to 49 pi minus 16 pi, which gives us 33 pi. So what we need to do now is we need to divide the area of the shaded area by the area of the largest circle to work out how much of the circle is shaded. So the shaded area is 33 pi and the total area is 100 pi. So we can cancel out the pi, which leaves us with 33 over 100. Now Daisy says that exactly 1/3 of the logo is shaded. Now we've worked out that Daisy is not correct. So we need to write a final summary statement. So Daisy is not correct because 33 over 100 does not equal 1 over 3. The table shows information about the weekly earnings of 20 people who work in a shop. Work out an estimate for the mean of the weekly earnings. So in order to work out an estimate for the mean of the weekly earnings, we need to find the midpoint of their weekly earnings, which is this left-hand side column here. So what we can do is we can add an extra column to this table here. And we can write the midpoint in this column. So the midpoint of 150 and 250 is 200. And we'll carry this on for the rest of the table. So now what we need to do is we need to work out a mean for this information. So as we can see from the frequency column, one person has a weekly earning of 200. So we can do 1 multiplied by 200. And the next row down, 11 people have a weekly earning of 300. So we can add 11 times by 300. Next, 5 people have an earning of £400. So we'll do 5 multiplied by 400. 0 people have an earning of 500, so we can miss this one out. And then finally 3 people have a weekly earning of 600. So next we can simplify this down. So 1 multiplied by 200 is 200. Now 11 times by 300 might look difficult, but if we remove these 2 zeros and do 11 multiplied by 3, this gives us 33, and then we can add the 2 zeros on. 5 times by 400 gives us 2,000, and then 3 multiplied by 600 gives us 1,800. And next we need to add these all together. So we can use a column method for this. So as we can see, the first 2 numbers will be 0, as there's only zeros in those columns. 2 add 3 add 0 add 8 gives us 13, and we'll carry over the 1. And finally 3 add 2 add 1 gives us 7. So what we can see is that 200 add 3,300 add 2,000 add 1,800 gives us 7,300. Now 7,300 would be the total weekly earnings of all 20 people. So what we need to do to find the mean of these earnings is we need to divide 7,300 by 20. Now again, this might look like quite a difficult sum, but we can cancel out these 2 zeros on both the top and bottom of the fraction, and this leaves us with 730 divided by 2. So what we need to do is half 730. And this gives us a mean weekly earning of £365. Nadia says the mean may not be the best average to use to represent this information. Do you agree with Nadia? You must justify your answer. So as we can see from the table we were given in Part A, there were quite a few outliers, especially in this higher weekly earnings area. Now when we're using the mean, we must include these outliers in the information. Now including these higher weekly earnings will bring the average up, and it may not be an accurate representation. So Nadia says that the mean may not be the best average to use. And because the outliers will affect this information, we can agree with Nadia and say, yes, we agree with Nadia because outliers will affect the mean. Here is a rectangle. All measurements are in centimetres. The area of the rectangle is 48 centimetres squared. Show that y equals 3. So as you can see, we've been given a diagram with 3 out of 4 of the side lengths filled in. Now we can fill in this final side length by using the knowledge that opposite sides in a rectangle are equal in length. So as you can see, both of these two sides will be equal to y because one of them is. Now we can apply the same principle to these two sides, 2x plus 6 and 5x minus 9, and we can form an equation for this. So this tells us that 2x plus 6 is equal to 5x minus 9. Now this is where our first mark will come from. And in order to work out what x is equal to, we need to isolate the x term on one side by rearranging the equation. So to do this, we can minus 2x from both sides, which gives us 6 is equal to 3x minus 9, and then we can add 9 to both sides, which gives us 15 is equal to 3x. And finally, we can divide both sides by 3. And this tells us that x is equal to 5. Now by isolating this x term, we can get our second mark. So the next thing we can do is we can take a look back at this diagram. Now we've just worked out that x is equal to 5, so we can work out what these side lengths are equal to. So what we need to do is we need to substitute x equals 5 into these side lengths. Now we only really need to do one because both side lengths are equal. However, it's good practice to do both just to check that we've done our workings correctly. So if we start off with 2x plus 6, so 2, and then we'll substitute in the 5 plus 6. So we'll do our multiplications first, so 2 times by 5 gives us 10 plus 6, and 10 plus 6 is equal to 16. So we can write this in. Now we can check this with our other side length, so 5x minus 9, so 5 and then we'll substitute in the 5 and then minus 9. So 5 multiplied by 5 is 25, minus 9, again giving us 16. So we know that both of these side lengths are equal to 16. This is where our third mark comes from. Now in order to get our final mark, we need to show that y equals 3. Now we've been told that the area of the rectangle is 48 centimetres squared. Now the area of a rectangle is equal to the base multiplied by the height. So we've been told that the area of this rectangle is equal to 48 centimetres squared, and if we take a look back at the rectangle, we can see that the height is 16 and the base is y. So we can again fill this into the equation. So the base is equal to y and the height is 16. So what we need to do to get our final mark is divide both sides by 16, and 48 divided by 16 gives us 3, and y multiplied by 16 divided by 16 gives us y. And we've now proven that y is equal to 3. Brogan needs to draw the graph of y equals x squared plus 1. Here is her graph. Write down one thing that is wrong with Brogan's graph. Now if we take a look at Brogan's graph, we can see that Brogan has drawn her lines with a ruler. And we can see this because these lines are straight rather than curved. So one thing that is wrong with Brogan's graph. So Brogan has used a ruler to draw her curve when the line should have been drawn freehand. Now this is a 1 mark question, so we get our 1 mark from this explanation here. In a sale, the normal price of a book is reduced by 30%. The sale price of the book is £2.80. Work out the normal price of the book. So as we can see, the sale price of a book is £2.80. And this has been reduced by 30%. Now 30% of 100% gives us 70%, which means that £2.80 is 70% of the original price. Now we want to work out what the original price of the book is, so we want to work out what 100% is equal to. Now to get from 70 to 100, we can divide by 7, which gives us 10%, and then multiply by 10 to give us 100%. So we can do the equivalent calculations on the left-hand side of this equation. So 2.80 divided by 7. Now this might look difficult at first because we've got this decimal point here. However, if we think about it, 28 divided by 7 is equal to 4, which means that 2.80 divided by 7 will be equal to 0.4. And finally 0.4 multiplied by 10 gives us 4. And this shows us that the original price of the book is £4. Now you'll get 1 mark for these workings, even if you don't get the question correct, and you'll get your second mark for getting the correct answer.